It's Lisa from Lettuce. Thank you for joining us for another session today. As you're coming in, it'd be great if you can drop your name, where you're from, maybe your LinkedIn in the chat. And I'm going to get right started with our intro so that I can leave as much time for Emily as possible. She just told me she's got a packed 45 minutes, so I want you guys to get the full value. We are welcoming you to Streamline to Scale, Operational Efficiency and Planning. Something every solopreneur struggles with. There's just not enough hours in the day. You're delivering for clients, you're chasing a business, you're managing your books, you're handling your admin tasks. I don't know about you, I've got a dog that interrupts me halfway through the day. And yet somehow then you're trying to find time to think strategically about where your business is going. So something's got to give, but it's really hard to decide what. And here's the reality. While traditional businesses get celebrated for scaling their teams and expanding their workforce, you and I have actually chosen a different path. We're thinking about autonomy, control, and the freedom to build our business on our own terms and stay solo. But that doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself. Smart solopreneurs don't just work harder, they work smarter. They can build systems and processes that free up their valuable time, their most valuable resource, time. They can automate the repetitive stuff, delegate what doesn't require their unique experience, and focus their energy on high value work that actually grows their business. That's Lettuce's philosophy too. We automate your tax strategy and bookkeeping so you can stop spending hours on financial admin and start spending time on what matters, serving your clients and growing your business. It's really not about adding more to your plate, but it's streamlining what's already there. If you're interested in learning more about Lettuce, you can check us out at lettuce.co. We're also running an offer right now where you can set up your S Corp today and not pay anything until the beginning of 2026. So you're starting your tax year clean. But jumping over to really what we're here to learn about in this session, streamlining. And today's speaker, Emily Hollander, is like us, a founder and fractional marketing VP. She's a solopreneur. She's built her entire career around helping businesses, especially solopreneurs and small teams, strike the perfect balance between delivering for clients and growing their business. She's going to share productivity strategies, mindset shifts, practical approaches to automation and delegation that work for your business. A little housekeeping. Like I said, Emily's going to run a pretty hard 45 minutes, which will give you a quick break, though, between our next session, so you can jump on over to the one that follows. Please feel free, as Emily's chatting, to put things in our chat or in our Q&A. We'll be monitoring that. If there's a question that you like, hit +1 or like, and we can see the most popular questions. In the panel on our right, where you see handouts, if you go there and then toggle over to offer, you can see an offer from Emily for her next Maven course. And if you visit the resource room in the expo, you can see a full list of the books, handouts, and offers from all of our summit experts. Without further ado, please welcome Emily Hollander.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. And hi, everyone. Love seeing some familiar names in the chat today. As you say hello to, would love just to read the room. Where are you all at in your solopreneur journey? Just quickly respond 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Awesome. I know folks are here from various phases. Perfect. Deborah, you're seasoned. Awesome. Oh, they're all coming in. Great. So we're all at different varying stages of our business. I'm really happy you're all here and excited to learn with you and share some tips around what I've learned over the years in my fractional business and fractional practice. A bit about what to expect over the next 45 minutes or so. We are talking today all about time, focus, and systems. I'll first just give a quick intro about who I am and why this topic matters to solos. I'll then talk through and we'll spend the majority of our time digging into a 4-step framework to start defining your solopreneur operating system. And then if we've got time, would love to do some Q&A at the end. As Lisa mentioned, there's a Q&A section in the chat. Feel free to post any questions in there and we'll review them at the end. I just want to shout you all out. A lot of what we're talking about today is focusing on your business and not just getting lost in it. And the fact that you're all here showing up and participating in the Lettuce Solo Summit today is just such a clear sign that you're all already prioritizing this. So I'm excited to dive in. And for those of you who I don't know already, my name is Emily. I'm a fractional marketing leader, surfer, and Maven instructor based in Santa Monica. I'm calling in from Mexico City today, actually. I spent the first decade of my career working full-time inside marketing teams at high-growth consumer startups like Run Through Runway, The Wing, and Tia. And in that time, honestly, I saw it all, from the highs of reaching unicorn status to the lows of shutting down. And it was an exhilarating experience, but it was also really exhausting. And in January of 2023, almost 3 years ago, I was laid off. I realized I was seriously burnt out. And that's what set me off on a path to really reevaluate what work looked like to me. And that's where I started dipping my toes into fractional work and solopreneurship. And so, quick snapshot of my solopreneur journey. I had, again, no intention of working for myself. I started just picking up some freelance projects as a way to extend my runway and buy myself some time as I figured out what I wanted to do next. Saw some early momentum, and that quickly opened my eyes to the fact that there's this whole other way of working out there, and 9 to 5 isn't the only option. Fractional work could really give me that freedom and flexibility that I was looking for. And, could be quite lucrative as well. So year one was all about a pilot of, can I do this? Do I like doing this? Can I make money doing this? Year two was making that mindset transition from being a freelancer to truly a business owner. And then this year for me has been all about really introducing tools, systems, and processes to up-level how I operate. And you can't tell now, I'm all in on fractional work. I'm really excited to share some of the frameworks and learnings with you today that I've been exploring over the past couple of years. And while on paper, all of this sounds great, the reality is 7 months into my solo journey, I nearly hit a breaking point. I was way over capacity. I'm sure many of you can relate to this, of just saying yes to too many things because I was fearful that there wouldn't be work on the other side of that. The second, I was just being reactive, not proactive. I, again, didn't think of myself as a business owner, so I was truly just winging it every day. And so I had 0 systems in place. Third, client work always took priority. That always felt the most urgent and the most important in my business. And so doing any sort of strategic thinking or, again, working on my business always fell to the bottom of my to-do list. And then lastly, I was feeling like I was approaching burnout again. The reason I set off on this path was to have more freedom and flexibility and truly work-life balance, and something wasn't working. I was out of alignment and feeling pretty exhausted. And unfortunately, all of this piled up. A couple of months later, this is a real screenshot from my bookkeeping account. I had absolutely $0 in revenue coming in. And while, of course, ups and downs are inevitable in the business that we do, the reality is this could have been avoided. And I think that's what disappointed me most, is that I was not prioritizing sales and business development and, again, working on my business. And so all of the pieces kind of fell at that point. So that experience really set me on this path again to start thinking about how I can bridge the gap between working on my business versus working in it. And I think many of us can relate. This is a tension that we feel very, very well day to day. Being able to both balance and prioritize client work while balancing the needs of our business is honestly really hard. I'm just gonna say that. As solos, we have a lot on our plate. We're not just delivering exceptional client work, but we're focused on keeping the lights on with admin, sales, business development, networking, bookkeeping, keeping tabs on our finances, marketing, learning and development. The list goes on. So when I say working on your business, these are all of the pieces and many more that we do each day to really, again, keep the lights on and also grow. So today we're going to change that. We are going to start moving through an exercise to really start building your solopreneur operating system. And to ground us in, as we get started, I wanted to start with this quote: "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. What truly sets successful fractionals and solos apart is their consistency, discipline, and systems," which honestly comes down to having a founder mindset. So while we can't, again, stop the waves, we can't stop all of the admin work and things that we have to do to keep the lights on, the reality is we can learn how to surf. And as you know, I'm a surfer, so wanted to have a little fun today and bring you all along and learn how to surf. So as you start building your solopreneur operating system, introducing this 4-step framework that can help us get clear and start really setting the stage for 2026. So there's 4 steps that we're going to lead and talk through over the next couple of slides. First step, S, set your foundation. Second step, U, understand your reality. Third step, R, reclaim your time. And then fourth step is find your flow. So by the end of today, I hope you'll walk away with at least one mindset or process shift that you can apply directly to your business that really allows you to treat your business like your best client. So let's dive in. Awesome. Step 1, set your foundation. So as a solopreneur, we get to design our own ways of working, our hours, our communication style, our boundaries. But if we don't define these up front, our clients and our calendar will honestly just take control. Not working 9 to 5 is theoretically a thing of the past, but the reality is a lot of us have worked in a corporate 9 to 5 environment for years. So we have to kind of intentionally unlearn and leave behind some of our old corporate behaviors and habits. And again, proactively define what work looks like to us in this new world. So what does that mean? We really get to define what work looks like to us. And as we do that, I encourage you to look at some of these 4 pieces. First is energy. So that's checking in with when and where you have the most energy and when and where do you do your best work. The second is boundaries. So, how much work do you want to take on? How many hours a week do you want to work? How many clients do you want to have? Again, setting those guardrails around your ways of working. The third piece is business and CEO mindset. So how will you treat your business like your best client and really prioritize, again, your business at the end of the day? And then lastly, the fourth piece of the puzzle is lifestyle. So how do you want work to fit into your life, not the other way around? So as we approach 2026, I encourage you to really take a beat and reflect on your ideal workday. Ask yourself some of these questions. Feel free to screenshot this too and revisit and take some time and put pen to paper on some of these responses. I encourage you to ask yourself some of these deeper questions around when do I have the most energy? When do I want to work? What days do I want to dedicate to client work? What do I want my ideal schedule to look like? What are some of my non-negotiables? And then a few of my favorite questions are, 1, what would it look like if you treated your business like your best client? And then secondly, what's something from the corporate world that you just simply want to leave behind? So here's an example. This is just a snapshot of, again, what my ideal day work day looks like for me. Not every day looks like this, but I carved this out as a way to, again, set some guardrails and kind of rules for how I operate. And for me, I think one of the biggest things that I was most eager to leave behind in the corporate world is this idea that productivity means time behind your desk. As a solopreneur, I want the flexibility to be able to go surfing in the afternoon, take a walk, take a break, and again, not feel like I'm glued to my screen from 9 to 5. So with that kind of motto of less is more, to me, that means 1, prioritizing daily movement. 2, I find, most of my energy and focus time really, is best in the morning. So I try to really front load a lot of deep work and strategic thinking to the beginning of the day before I get fatigued and tired from meetings. With that too, some guardrails around meetings. I try my best to have them or stack them later in the day so they're not eating into that deep focus time. And then I also started introducing some rituals, which I'll share more about this later on, like Finance Fridays, or really this past year, I wanted to get closer to my finances. And so every Friday, I'll go through my expenses, go through my projections, really just stay close to the numbers. Similarly, I'll carve out some CEO days, which I'll talk about those later on too. And then most importantly, too, leaving some time to reflect at the end of the day as well. So as you approach, again, 2026, or if you want to get started tomorrow, you don't need to wait until next year to begin. Think through and ask yourself, what does your ideal day look like? Start mapping it out and then add it to your calendar to hold yourself accountable. All right, so moving on to step 2, We now have an understanding of our goals, our guardrails, and our really values that are driving ways of working and the work life we want to build. Now it's time to take stock of our current reality. So if you're feeling like, you're always behind, you're always trying to catch up, you're running around out of focus, you're exhausted at the end of the day or the end of the week, this might be a sign that you're out of alignment. So one of the ways to get to the root of alignment challenges is to audit your time. So one of my favorite things to do, and I've chatted about this with many of you before, is track my time. I use a tool called Toggl. There's many others that are out there as well. And basically it allows me to track and keep tabs on what I'm doing throughout the day. And you betcha, it is currently running in the background. I am logging this as well and going to reflect at the end of the week on where I've been spending my time. And although it sounds silly, tracking my time has, again, truly been game-changing and giving me that awareness around where my time is going. So a few reasons why I do it and why I encourage you to consider doing it too, or at least have some intentionality around your time is, one, it creates intention. So when I'm opening my laptop, I'm pressing play on my Toggl time tracker, I'm choosing what deserves my focus. I'm not just reacting to inbound notifications and responding and just trying to keep up. Similar to that, it allows me to really focus on outcomes versus time spent. I got my guardrails around how many hours per week I want to bill per client or bill per week. That allows me to, again, try to focus on outcomes and outputs versus just time spent running the clock. The third is that it gives me data. And this has been one of the most eye-opening things for me. As humans, we are notoriously bad at estimating how long things take. So tracking my time gives me true quantitative data around where I'm spending my time and, again, where all of it is going. And then lastly, with this data, it allows me to really just check in on how I'm feeling and how I'm doing and audit my energy. At the end of the week, if I'm feeling really drained and exhausted, first thing I'll do is pull my time tracker report. I'll take a look at my calendar and, I've been working 50 hours that week. Of course, I'm tired. How can I reevaluate or realign going into the coming weeks as well? So with that in mind, I encourage you to take stock of your current calendar and your current schedule and go back to these 4 areas. Whether or not you track your time or want to do that, check in on your energy. Are you feeling energized or drained by your work right now? How's your capacity looking? Are you upholding those boundaries that you set with yourself? CEO mindset. Are you doing work that will truly move your business forward, or are you just checking boxes? And then lastly, lifestyle. Do you have time to, again, be creative, be with your family, do all the things outside of work that you want to do? So think about it, take stock. There's no judgment or shame, really just awareness to help inform your next steps. So that leads me to step 3, reclaim your time. So we know where we want to go. We have a sense of where we're feeling in alignment or out of alignment. Next, we're just going to talk through some productivity and focus driving strategies so that you can start prioritizing your own business and integrate some of these tips into your daily schedule. So first, I want to introduce us to a very real challenge that us solopreneurs face, which is context switching. If you're not familiar with this term, you get used to it. Context switching is the process of changing focus from one task to another. While computers are really good at this, as humans, context switching is incredibly mentally taxing and can lead to reduced productivity, reduced creativity, and increased errors. So to give you an example, imagine you're opening up your laptop, you're focusing on some deep work, maybe you're updating your capabilities deck or working on a proposal for a potential client. All of a sudden your phone buzzes, or you even just take a glance at your phone, or you get a Slack notification, or somebody asks you to hop a quick 5-minute meeting. And while in our mind, we think we're only taking a couple of minutes to switch gears and then we'll come right back, the reality is each shift forces our brain to refocus and reprocess. And that processing time means that roughly 20% of our cognitive capacity is actually lost when a context switch occurs, which is wild. And so these small interruptions add up. Just some fun stats. 98% of us cannot multitask effectively, even though we think we can. Our brain is actually just switching between these different contexts, making us more tired. The average person is interrupted 32 times per day. I'm sure as solopreneurs, that could be even more, as again, we've got different clients and projects all in motion. It takes over 20 minutes to get back on track with a task after being interrupted. So unfortunately, it's not as immediate as we think. And the average professional, and again, I'd be curious to see some of these stats with solopreneurs, attends 25 meetings per week. I'm sure for us, it's even more. So that's causing you to context switch at least 5 times daily. So this is truly, I would say, one of the biggest challenges when it comes to time management and productivity. And oh gosh, I'm seeing some comments in the chat. Yep, no worries. I get it. It's hard to be, when you're context switching or you're on a Zoom call, catching up on emails. I totally get it. It's all good. We do that. I'll share some tips on how we can maybe protect our time and focus in the next couple of slides. So context switching just is like truly part of our job. Again, we're naturally plugged into so many projects. We have that variety, which is both really fun, but also can be really mentally taxing. So if we're not keeping tabs on this and being intentional, honestly, we're going to just get really exhausted and we're going to waste more time than we think. So I'm going to talk through just a few practical productivity and time management tips to help us kind of manage context switching and also start streamlining how we operate while still, again, continuing to deliver that excellent client work. So within this saving time bucket, going to talk about documentation and SOPs and processes. And then second, some tools and automations and how to approach bringing on tools to really streamline and speed up elements of your business. And then second bucket is all about protecting your time. So how can we protect really our most valuable resource, which is truly our focus? So that's one tactic, eating the frog, which we'll dive into what that means, and then time boxing, which many of you might be familiar with too. And just want to caveat, there are so many different types of time management tips and tactics out there. Do what works for you. These are just a few of my kind of greatest hits that have worked well for me and my business over the past couple of years. So first tactic is systems. So as we talked about, there's so much that we do in our business every single day and every single week. As you audit your week, as you audit your day and look at where you're spending your time, ask yourself, how can you streamline and document some of those repeatable actions in your business that you're doing today? And by documenting, I mean creating some sort of workflow in writing or a standard operating procedure. So again, these are just some examples of areas of your business where you might want to hone in. I'd recommend that you pick one or maybe two that could use a little bit of love and organization, or are areas and things that you're doing consistently that need to be streamlined. So let's talk through a common example, which is sales. So sales and business development, as we all know, is part of our job. And there's likely repeatable elements of our process that we can document and streamline so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time we have a new potential client, and instead have different templates and tools in our back pocket that can really, again, streamline this end-to-end process. So for me, my sales process looks a little something like this. The first step is research, so identifying and vetting potential new clients. The discovery phase of learning a bit more about the project and the work to understand if it's a fit. The third step, contracting, so finalizing and getting the details and proposals signed. And then last step is onboarding, so actually kicking things off and onboarding with the new client. So looking at these steps, there's some clear materials and documents that, I could easily introduce and templatize. So that way I'm not starting from scratch every single time. So what could this look like? Here's a few examples. So in the research phase, how might I set up a vetting criteria for new clients? So that way I've got a clear, data-driven and kind of documented assessment of how I determine if something is the right fit. Secondly, with that, like creating some sort of sales pipeline, some sort of system where I can see, okay, who's in the pipeline, who have I been in active conversations with, and who do I need to follow up with? In the discovery phase, another example could be templatizing discovery call questions. Anytime I've got a new call on the books with a potential client, I've got my go-to list of 10 questions that, of course, I'll tailor and customize based on the client and the business, but I have a starting point so that, again, I'm not starting from scratch every single time. Similar to that, email scripts. So there's typically a follow-up email that I'll send after the discovery call. Again, I always tailor it to the conversation, but how might you set up that shell? So again, you're not starting from zero and starting from scratch with that follow-up. With contract, this is, a bit more of a straightforward one of creating some sort of proposal template or contract template. Again, those sales scripts, you have them in your back pocket. And then lastly, with onboarding, having some sort of kickoff agenda or work plan template. So again, you can kind of copy, paste, and of course, tailor to the client in the project you're working on. So there's a lot here. I'm not saying you have to totally overhaul your sales process and do all of these things. Think about one or two, maybe top areas where you're getting stuck, where you're spending a lot of your time. I feel like proposals is actually one of those where many solopreneurs and fractional leaders who I speak to are spending hours and hours creating a proposal. So how might you streamline that piece? And again, focus on one or two things that will move your business forward. So second tactic in this kind of time-saving area is tools. So although we're a team of one, I think one of the most powerful things that we can do is invest in quality tools that can just make the work that we do more efficient. The reality is that there are so many tools out there. I know I need to do a tool audit myself. I've signed up for way too many, and that also adds up from a cost perspective. So it's very easy to have like shiny object syndrome and want to say yes and sign up for all the things. And so as you think about tools in your business, prioritize function over form. Before signing up for another free trial or yet another thing, ask yourself these three things. One, will this tool solve a real friction or inefficiency in my business? Second is timing. This is a really big one. Do I need this in my business right now? Sure, a fancy HubSpot CRM sounds really awesome, but if you're a couple of months into your fractional journey, it's probably not necessary at this time. And investing in setting that up is actually taking away from doing the work of networking and getting yourself out there and having those introductory conversations with potential clients. So really question whether or not it's the right time. And then, of course, lastly, ROI. Will this tool meaningfully save me time or money? And so as you ask yourself some of these questions and explore what else is out there, start building out your solopreneur tech stack. These are some of my top favorites. I'd be curious, and feel free in the chat to share any notable tools or things that have been really game-changing for you and your business. For me, Notion has been truly my central hub just for general organization around my business. That's where my sales pipeline is. That's where my CRM is. So for me, that was a great kind of up level from Google Suite, but Google's great too. Bookkeeping, Lettuce, of course. I use Wave currently as a way just to keep tabs. And I would say if you're early on in your journey, having some sort of solid bookkeeping tool, I would say is one of the most important areas to prioritize to start. I already shared my time tracking recs. I've heard Clay and Folk are great for CRM. And then other AI toolmates, of course. Granola is one of my new favorite tools. It truly just has made note-taking so much easier. And I love some of these other recommendations in the chat. Ooh, keep me posted on Folk and some of these others. This is great. And then if you're questioning and trying to determine, okay, what do I prioritize? How do I fit some of these tools into my existing workflows? Go back to that kind of workflow and process that you started outlining and think about, okay, I've got some templates and SOPs as part of that. How can I layer on tools to make this even more seamless? So as an example, with research, is there some sort of custom GPT that you could set up for your business that allows you to really verify and vet if a potential client aligns with the criteria that you've set up? With tools, scheduling back and forth, that ends up taking up so much time. So Calendly or another calendar scheduling tool could be a great time saver there. Granola, as I mentioned, is one of my favorites when it comes to note taking. And then, of course, contracts, DocuSign is great to avoid any back and forth. And then figuring out, what project management software works for you. I, again, use Notion. I've heard Monday's great. ClickUp is great. Seeing a ton of other recs in the chat. So do what works best for you and scope it out and see, again, what works best at this stage in your business. So third tactic, this is now shifting gears to more of these protecting your time and focus, a focus related tactic. So we talked about, again, ways to create some efficiencies in our business. Now we're going to talk through some ways to protect our time. The first tactic is truly one of my favorites and also one of the hardest to put in practice each day. It's to eat the frog. So the saying goes, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, best to eat the big one first. So this lesson goes a long way when it comes to time and productivity management. I recently heard on a podcast with Newport, who wrote a book all around slow productivity. He said that oftentimes our to-do lists are actually just wish lists. So we write down all the things we want to do that day, but the reality that we'll actually get through them is very, very low. And I don't know about you, I love checking things off my list. It gives me that dopamine hit, but I also don't feel great at the end of the day if I look at my to-do list on my notebook and see that I was barely able to get through half of those things. So instead, I encourage you to look at your business and look at your priorities and ask yourself, what is one thing that will move your business forward today, this week, or this month? Do that thing first. These tasks, can be big or small. As an example, for me today, it was prepping for today's presentation. That was the one thing that I want to accomplish. There's obviously a ton of other tasks that are on my list, but I'm going to start with this thing first, because as soon as, my Slack starts turning up, as soon as my inbox gets full, it's really hard to prioritize and do the thing in the priority that I set out to do. So these things can be big or small. It could be, again, sending that proposal to a client, following up with a potential client after a discovery call, publishing a post on LinkedIn, you name it. But I encourage you to think about what is one thing that you can do at the top of your day that will move your business forward, and try to do that every day. And then lastly, final recommended tactic here is time boxing and exploring, again, if this is a time management technique that could work for you. So time boxing is a great tool that basically allows us to allocate a fixed amount of time to focus on a specific task or outcome. So for me, as I mentioned, I'm focused on less is more. I really want to do work that moves the needle. So time boxing and setting aside and carving out time to really drive output and impact has been really key to how I stay focused and get work done. And what I like about time boxing too is that there's a clear end. We're not just continuing a task endlessly until it's done. We have that predetermined start and end. So it really helps protect against procrastination and perfectionism too. And it sounds simple, but time boxing is actually really, really hard, especially when we are just bombarded with notifications every single day. So here are a few tips to doing it effectively. First, easier said than done, do not disturb. Turn off your notifications, put your phone in the other room, do what you can, and try to have the willpower to, again, remove any distractions that could, again, prompt you to context switch. So that's really first step and first tip. Second, get clear on what you want to accomplish. So have a very clear goal and outcome going into a time block around what you want to do during that time, so you know what success looks like on the other side. The third, and this goes back to the first step that we talked through around creating your ideal calendar, is align time blocks with your energy. For me, again, my peak focus hours are really first thing in the morning. So I'm likely having my deep work blocks then. If I have something later on in the day, my mind isn't there, I'm exhausted from meetings, it's not a good time to focus on output and quality. So align your time blocks with those peak focus hours for you. And then lastly, take breaks, reward yourself at the end of it. And on the other side, take a walk, take a break to recharge, and then get back into things. We are not meant to be at our desk from 9 to 5 every single day. That's why we're solopreneurs as well. We have the ability and flexibility to move away from our screen. So batch out some of your work throughout the day. And again, do so in a way that aligns with your energy. And with all of this, just to sum up some of these tips, these tips is to experiment with what works for you. There's truly no one perfect time management solution or system or tool out there. So just start testing into it. And I think one of the most empowering things we can do as solopreneurs, and something I am going to be adopting and focusing on truly daily in my business, is, saying no. I think focusing, really the biggest thing here is to say no and setting those boundaries and holding yourself to them. So easier said than done, but I'm putting it out there that that's something for me this year and really going into 2026 that I'm going to be focused on. So finally, we're at step 4 in the SURF framework. We have a sense of where we want to go. We've audited our time. We've learned about some different time management and focus management tools that we could introduce into our day-to-day. Eventually, we'll find a rhythm, but it's also important to know that, our businesses evolve. So we want to create some lookout points and moments where we can check in with ourselves to see how things are going. So with this, it's bringing really everything together and creating your solopreneur operating system. And this truly is quite simple. First, it's setting your big vision. Many of you are doing this today by being and participating in the Solo Summit and really zooming out and thinking about where you want your business to go. So every year, or it could be more frequently, 2026 and the new year is truly a construct. You can start some of these new rituals at any point in the year. Set that bigger picture, set your vision and some of the goals that you want to achieve. Every quarter and every month, check in, whether you set OKRs or have another way to monitor progress towards your goals. Check in with yourself. And one of my favorite rituals here is to schedule a CEO day. So you're the boss. You want to make time to do all the things that CEOs need to do. So whether that's taking a step back on a Friday to reflect on your strategy, thinking big picture about where you want to go, leaving room and time just to be creative or to catch up on some admin work or just to relax, I encourage you to carve out, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, a true CEO day where you can step out of the business and get a bit more of that perspective. And it's not taking a break. I love reframing it as a CEO day because it's part of doing business and it's important to kind of take a step back and recharge as well. On a weekly basis, reflect. Love to do just a quick end of week ritual to check in and stay present. And then daily, that's going back to, again, this idea of treating your business like your best client. What's that one thing you will do to move your business forward every day? And so that, my friends, is how you surf. I hope next time you can come join me in Los Angeles and we'll actually get out there. A few final words as you continue to really build your business and set your operating system as you go into the new year is 1, take steps, not leaps. You are never going to have everything perfectly figured out. And once you feel like you do, of course, things always change. So progress over perfection and really focus on experimentation. Second is just do what works for you. Shiny object syndrome is real, especially in this world on LinkedIn where we're seeing everyone crushing it and recommending things, and we feel like we have to do that too. So always come back to that foundation that you set in step 1. Third is prioritize your business always. Your business deserves to be that number 1 all the time. So just keep that in mind, especially when some of the client work piles up. And then know lastly that your solo community is here for you. Love seeing some of the chatter in the discussion and I would love to connect with you all after this and just keep in touch and share learnings, tips, and hold each other accountable. I've got a few fractional friends in Los Angeles who will do co-working sessions and it's just a great way to, again, hold yourself accountable and have some community in the process too. So as we wrap up, would love in the chat, what's one thing that you're going to do this week to treat your business like your best client? It can be small, it can be, big, whatever it might be. You just pop it in the chat. I'd love to get some inspiration. Awesome. Love it. Some documentation, CEO day. I think we should all carve out and put a CEO day on our calendar. That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. We've got a couple minutes left, so I'd love to open it up for Q&A. I did just want to flag, and I think Lisa will share more details after. I'm leading my final Maven course of the year in December, so if you're interested, feel free to reach out. You can sign up, and I think Lisa will follow up with more details on how to do so. And my email is here. I would truly love to keep in touch and excited to continue having these conversations and figuring out the solopreneur life with all of you. But feel free, if you've got a question, pop it in the Q&A and we'll cover those. Awesome. Thank you everyone for coming. Wonderful. All right. Thanks so much, Lisa. It looks like we don't have any major questions in the chat unless you're seeing anything else.
No, you crushed it so well with such good advice all the way through. So clear that looks like everyone's, oh, we had one pop in. Your biggest fail that you've learned the most from?
I think for me, so I'm very much a recovering people pleaser. And I think my biggest fail was just truly saying yes to too many things to the point of leading myself to burnout. So yeah, saying yes, it's important, but know your limits. And so I think that probably the experience that I shared a couple months into my business was probably one of my, I would say, biggest fails. Great question.
And actually, there are some questions in the Q&A.
Oh, great. Let's take a look.
Best way to close a sale?
Best way to close a sale? Ooh, great question. I would say, and I think a lot of my philosophy around business development and networking and sales is truly being yourself. I think the solo space and fractional world is getting more and more competitive, which is honestly really exciting. It's showing that companies are catching on to this new way of working. And I think truly the way to stand out is to lean into what makes you one of one. So be you. I think a lot of us are, get scared around showing up and bringing your whole selves to work. But I encourage folks to do that and really just lean into being themselves, because people want to work with people they like and people who they trust.
Oh, can you repeat the weekly, daily flow suggestions?
Oh, sure. I can go back in the slide super quick. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So encourage you to set up different kind of structures and rituals that work best for you. I do this kind of naturally within the business planning rhythm of annually and quarterly, but set those lookout points and put them on your calendar. I think that's one of the big things here. And now is a great time as we're like mid Q4 to maybe have that little check-in as well.
Was there a website you used to find fractional marketing opportunities?
Oh, there's a few great ones out there. I would say Fractional Jobs is one of my favorites, the newsletter that comes in my inbox every Monday, written by Taylor Crane. Taylor's awesome and has a roundup of marketing and then also just broader fractional opportunities.
Many people here today may have come in through Taylor.
Love it. So he's wonderful. That's a great one. And then Hello Generalists is another community that I love. I believe Shayna spoke at the last Solo Summit. And actually several of my clients have come through Shayna too. So recommend checking out Hello Generalists as well.
There's a question about figuring out your ICP and productizing your services. I'll let you quickly answer that one, but also put a plug in that there's a session immediately after this one about productizing services by Sam Lee of Indie Collective. So
yes, Sam is a pro at productization. So I encourage you to jump over there and learn from him. I think with a lot of this too, and I think this is kind of my style around reflecting on your strengths, I would ask yourself, what do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? What is somebody, if they were to pick up the phone and ask you for work advice, like what would they call you to help them with? So think about those areas where you really spike and build some of your products from there. But Sam will be able to share a bit more about that.
I'll also say on the ICP, I'm going to put a little plug in for our friend Wes, who's here in this session. That was a speaker at the last summit, and he helps you kind of figure out how to put it into a visual.
Love it.
So another good expert to check out. Can you go back to the slide for step 3? Does that make sense to you?
Let's go back. Let's see. Sorry, it'll take a moment. So with step 3, maybe it's summarizing some of the tools and tips. So these are the 4 that we dove into. Let me know if you're looking for something else and can follow up too with resources and guidance.
And I'll just mention too that we will publish the recording of this session over the next couple days. Everyone that's registered will have access. So you'll be able to come back and rewatch or grab screenshots.
Awesome.
And there's a question about what are OKRs?
OKR stands for objectives and key results. So it's a annual planning tool that I had used actually in my startup full-time life previously that allows you to kind of set a broader objective and then identify what are those key tactics and key outcomes you're going to drive. So just a goal setting tool and strategy. Great question. And there's some other annual planning strategies and things out there, but I've just used OKRs since that's something I had used previously.
I think we have grabbed most of them and we are at time. So I will, Emily, thank you on behalf of Lettuce for joining us today, and thank all of our attendees. It was a great session with a lot of good engagement in the chat. I hope to see everybody at our last breakout session and then our closing keynote.
Wonderful. Thank you all for coming and looking forward to staying connected.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Have a good one.